Hi, Nick Biron from 360 Insights. Continuing on my video series, today I wanted to touch upon something that I spoke about in one of my previous videos, which I called the Boomerang customers, where customers will come in, they'll spend a considerable amount of time with your sales team, only to at the last minute pull back and decide not to move forward. Typically, this is where we find them in the build versus buy conundrum, where they are trying to make a decision around whether they want to build it internally themselves or maybe even augment something that they already have in place to make it do the same thing that you guys do. What we find is that typically I call them boomerang customers because 6, 9, 12 months in, they in turn realize it's not working out the way they'd hoped, and they come back and they eventually purchase your solution. So there's a couple of things that I've learned over the years on how to deal with these boomerang customers. It's something that I've actually dealt with myself. When I was employed at HubSpot early on, we dealt with a lot of boomerang customers. We spoke to small business owners and we were trying to tell them and educate them on the value of internet marketing, social media, SEO, things that just weren't around and really popular back 10, 15 years ago. And what we found is that a lot of those prospects would come into the process, they would take up a considerable amount of our time, only to fade away and either not do anything or try to do it themselves. And then eventually they come back pretty predictably and end up buying the HubSpot software. And what I've learned over time is a few things when you come to these boomerang customers. The first thing is, and I wrote about this in a blog probably 4 or 5 years ago, is to take the loss gracefully. I have seen over time where sales reps, sales managers might get very, very frustrated as part of this process. And they might even lash out on the prospect when the prospect says no. At the end of the day, it leaves a very bad taste in their mouth. And we typically recommend is just to take the loss gracefully. Thank them for their time, thank them for the consideration, and then allow them to move on. When you leave them with a good feeling, they're not going to leave with that distaste in their mouth. And again, I've seen this happen time and time again, where again, they take up a whole lot of time, and it can be very frustrating that to have them only say no at the last minute. The next thing is that I always highly encourage that the sales and marketing just begins at that particular point in time. So, for example, what I learned at HubSpot, what they did really well is they created a very intensive nurture marketing program. In fact, if you go to their blog today, they have one that's specifically focused on sales, marketing, social media, website optimization, and so on and so forth. And quite honestly, they put a considerable amount of effort into that content, and they do more research than some research firms do. And their sole goal was to basically educate people as much as they possibly can about the value of sales and marketing in internet, more importantly, inbound marketing. That was their term. And what that did is it really tried to give people an insight to why what they were looking to purchase made sense. And it was in a sense where it was drip marketing. It happened over time. So it slowly started to educate these people on the value of what their solution was, what HubSpot could potentially do for them. And when they finally got educated enough, it was a way for them to triple lever and then come right back to HubSpot and purchase the software. I also recommend a few other things, and I even do this at 360 Insights, where every time I make a new connection, the first thing I do is I go over to LinkedIn and I send them a connection request. I actually go over to Twitter or X, excuse me, and I'll actually follow them as well. And the goal is to build my connection and community, but at the same time, build a connection with those individuals. Few things when it comes to sales. People buy from people, and the more human you can become, the greater the connection you can make with those individuals. That's one reason why I do that, because I want people to make a connection with me as a human versus just being 360 insights. But the other thing too is I share an awful lot around what our research is, what our analysts are doing, what people as part of our global executive advisory council might be doing. And over time, those people are getting exposure to the work that 360 Insights does. So, for example, if we have someone that's in our sales cycle and they decide that it's not right for them and they basically decide that they may want to try it themselves or maybe go another avenue, they're getting branding impressions through the things that I'm doing in social media. And that's slowly kind of showing them the value that 360 Insights can bring to them. And what we find is over time, as they get more educated about what we do and more comfortable with us, they end up coming back to 360 Insights. So these are just a few tactics that I believe many organizations can put into place when thinking about the Boomerang customers. And I want to make a caution because what I see a lot in marketing is too much about their company, their branding. So, for example, if I think about it, going back to the HubSpot example, if you go to their blog, they actually talk very little about HubSpot. They spend more time talking about the industry, the challenges people are dealing with, different tips and tricks that people can do to enhance their social media strategy or SEO strategy, whatever it might be. HubSpot is actually talking about very, very little in their blog series and also in their follow-up nurture marketing that might be done via emails. In contrast, what I find is a lot of companies that we deal with today spend an awful lot of time talking about them as a company, their products, their services, and they kind of do a product dump. And what I found is that over time, people tend to tune that out. So, one point of caution when thinking about this type of strategy, don't make it too much about you, your products, your strategies. Make it more educational, whether it's about the industry, about other challenges that people might be dealing with that you might have seen with your own prospects and clients, how you've helped and solved those problems, or how you've seen your customers overcome those problems. Those types of things are going to help educate and be more engaging to your prospects. And then again, when the time is right, they will come back. I have seen a large majority of this, what I call boomerang customer phenomenon, happen over the past few years because right now a lot of organizations are going through their own digital transformation journey, and going back to kind of the first video I shared, there's a power struggle between IT and line of business. IT typically wants to try to build it themselves, or they want to try to augment something that they already have in place to make it work, and they are going to fight that tooth and nail, and sometimes they are just simply going to win. What's going to happen though is over time, they're going to realize that it isn't going to do what your solution could have done. So the more that you can take that loss gracefully, but then B, educate them in all the different facets that you can potentially connect with them. When the timing is right, they will come back to you. So again, just another little tip around the Boomerang customers, and I hope everyone has the best of luck.